The rain was coming down in sheets, drenching the streets in icy torrents as thunder cracked in the sky above. Most had run for cover, doors shut, windows locked, hearts closed. But not Emma. She stood alone on the roadside, her coat soaked through, eyes scanning the darkness. She hadn't meant to be out this late, but fate doesn't always care about our plans. Not when a life is on the line. Earlier that evening, Emma had been driving home after a long shift at the animal shelter. Tired, emotionally drained, and looking forward to a hot shower. But as her headlights cut through the storm, something small darted across the road. Fast, then frozen. A terrified whimper followed, barely audible above the rain. She hit the brakes. It was a dog. No collar, soaked to the bone, and barely able to stand. He looked no more than 6 months old, a bundle of fur and bones. Emma stepped out into the downpour without hesitation. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, her voice trembling as she knelt down. The pup backed away, trembling violently. He didn't know she was here to help. To him, humans had been nothing but monsters. Emma slowly reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a granola bar, all she had. "Come on, sweetheart. You're not alone anymore." After several agonizing minutes, the pup crept forward. Hunger won out over fear. He licked the food from her hand before collapsing at her feet. She scooped him into her arms. That should have been the end of it. A rescue. A ride home. A warm blanket. But fate wasn't done testing Emma. As she turned back toward her car, headlights blinded her from behind. A rusted truck swerved to a stop, tires screeching. A man jumped out, shouting, "That's my dog." Emma froze. The man reeked of alcohol, his eyes wild. "I just found him. He was in the street," she replied, trying to stay calm. "You think I care? Hand him over." The pup whimpered and pressed into her chest. That one sound decided everything. "No," she said firmly. The man took a step closer. "You don't want to mess with me, girl." Emma's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at her to back off. But she looked down at the fragile life in her arms, ribs showing, scars old and new. This wasn't a pet. This was property to him. "I'm not giving him back to someone who hurts him," she said, voice shaking but unyielding. He lunged. Emma turned and ran. Through the storm, across muddy ground, she ran like her life depended on it, because his did. Her breath came in ragged gasps, but she didn't stop. Behind her, she could hear the man shouting, stumbling in pursuit. She didn't know where she was going. Her car was behind him now, and her phone had fallen. But the only thing that mattered was getting this soul to safety. An old shed came into view, half collapsed and forgotten. She darted inside, kicking the door shut behind her. Dark. Quiet. The pup shivered in her arms, curled tight against her chest. Emma clutched him, heart racing. She whispered over and over, more to herself than him. "You're safe now. You're safe now. I won't let anything happen to you." Outside, the footsteps faded. Minutes passed. Maybe more. Then a creak. The door moved an inch. Emma held her breath. Light spilled into the shed, and a silhouette appeared. She had risked everything. And now she would find out if it was enough. Emma's muscles tensed as the shed door inched open. Her breath caught, her arms tightening protectively around the trembling pup. For a moment, time stopped. Then a familiar voice pierced the silence. "Emma." A beam of light swept across the dusty space. Relief flooded her chest as she recognized the voice. It was Officer Ramirez, a local cop who often visited the shelter. She stepped forward, her voice cracking with relief. "He's trying to take the dog. He said it was his." Ramirez's flashlight lowered to the small bundle in her arms. His expression softened. "I saw your car on the side of the road. When I spotted that guy staggering around, I knew something was wrong." Emma finally exhaled. Her legs buckled slightly as the adrenaline drained from her system. He was going to hurt him again. "I couldn't let that happen." Ramirez nodded. "You did the right thing. Come on, let's get you both out of here." With one arm still curled around the pup, Emma stepped out into the storm. The wind had lessened, the thunder now distant. But the emotional storm still raged inside her. What if Ramirez hadn't shown up in time? At the shelter, Emma wrapped the pup in warm towels and settled him into the heated crate. She sat beside him on the floor, her clothes still soaked, hair plastered to her face. She didn't care. "I think I'm going to call you Chance," she whispered, running her fingers gently through his damp fur. "Because that's what you deserved, a second chance." The pup looked up at her, eyes softer now. A quiet, unsure wag of the tail. It was the first moment he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the nightmare was over. But not everyone saw it that way. The next morning, as Emma was preparing Chance's antibiotics, the shelter director called her into the office. "There's a complication," the director said, sliding a paper across the desk. It was a legal notice. "He filed a complaint. Says you stole his dog." Emma stared at the paper. "He was abusing him. You saw the wounds. He tried to take him back by force." The director nodded sympathetically. "We're filing a counter report, but you may have to testify. If he has any kind of documentation, it could be a fight." Emma looked through the office window at the crate where Chance lay sleeping, belly full, wounds cleaned, safe. "Then I'll fight." The next few days were a blur. Emma juggled vet appointments, behavior assessments, and legal consultations. The man, whose name turned out to be Daryl Briggs, had no real proof of ownership. But what he lacked in facts, he made up for in noise. He posted online, showed up at the shelter shouting. He called her names, called the shelter corrupt. He even tried to follow her home once. Emma installed new locks and started carrying pepper spray. But she didn't back down. Every night, Chance made progress. He started wagging his tail when she entered the room. He barked, just once, when she tried to hide his pills and cheese. And one morning, for the first time, he climbed into her lap and fell asleep. "This is what love looks like," she whispered, holding back tears. "This is why we don't give up." The court date loomed. Emma sat in the hallway of the county courthouse, documents clutched in her hands. Photos of Chance's injuries, vet reports, witness statements. Ramirez would testify. So would the shelter vet. Still, her stomach churned. Daryl arrived late, swaggering into the room like it was a joke. He smirked at her as he passed. But Emma didn't look away. In court, she told the truth about the rain, the rescue, the confrontation. She showed the judge the scars. She let her voice break when she described the moment Chance looked up at her, too weak to even stand, but still full of silent hope. When it was Daryl's turn, he had nothing but a few old phone pictures of a similar-looking dog. "He ran off," he said. "I just want him back. That girl's crazy." Emma could feel the tension in her chest. The judge was quiet. Too quiet. And then he spoke. Given the lack of proof of ownership, the animal's condition at the time of recovery, and the testimony provided by witnesses, custody of the dog will remain with the shelter. "Mr. Briggs, you are hereby banned from attempting to reclaim or approach this animal again." Emma's knees nearly gave out. She turned to see Chance, waiting in the hallway with a volunteer. He barked twice and wagged his tail when he saw her. She dropped to her knees and opened her arms. He ran to her. She had risked everything, her safety, her peace, her job. But in that moment, all of it was worth it. And yet, their journey together was only just beginning. Emma's home was small, a modest one-bedroom cottage tucked behind rows of tall pines. But to Chance, it was a palace. The moment his paws touched the wooden floor, tail wagging like a flag in the wind, he knew. This was where he belonged. The shelter staff celebrated his adoption with hugs, cheers, and a tearful farewell from the volunteer who'd helped care for him. But it was Emma he ran to, nuzzling his face into her jacket like it was stitched from safety itself. Weeks passed. Then months. Wounds faded into faint lines. What once were ribs pressing against skin became soft fur and healthy weight. The shadows in his eyes lifted, replaced by curiosity, playfulness, and love. Emma and Chance developed a rhythm. Morning walks along the trail behind her house. Slow afternoons sunbathing on the porch. And late-night moments, when he would curl beside her on the couch, head on her lap, as if to remind her, "I remember you saved me." He was still cautious around strangers, especially men. But with patience and treats, he grew braver. Emma never rushed him. She let him heal in his own time. One afternoon, while helping a lost hiker near the woods, Emma noticed something remarkable. Chance didn't flinch. In fact, he stepped between her and the stranger, not with fear, but protection. Confidence. Trust. He had changed. But so had she. Before Chance, Emma thought she was just a caretaker, someone who cleaned kennels, fed strays, offered temporary love. She never saw herself as brave. She never believed she'd stand in court or confront a violent man in the rain. But when love is real, when it's raw and desperate and pleading, you find strength you didn't know you had. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Emma sat on her porch with Chance beside her. He rested his chin on her knee, sighing softly. "You saved me too, you know," she whispered, fingers tracing the edge of his ear. "Not just your life. You reminded me who I am, who I want to be." The sky turned golden, and the world fell quiet. And that's how their story truly ended. Not with courtroom battles or dramatic rescues, but with peace. With healing. With two broken souls who found wholeness in each other. The moral asterisk. In a world full of noise, cruelty, and indifference, one act of compassion can be louder than 1,000 acts of harm. She risked everything, not because she was fearless, but because she cared. And in doing so, she proved that love doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the rain. Not today. Not this one. Because sometimes the life you save saves you right back.